I hope you all are having a great time at AstriCon. I know I am, and I really enjoyed the keynote this morning. I thought it was just a great presentation. Today I'm going to be telling you about Asterisk and how TWR uses it, the success story that we've had with it, but mostly I want to talk about the challenges that I've faced maintaining that system over the last few years. But first I want to share a video. This has nothing to do with the real topic of my talk. It's strictly for entertainment.
Are we live now? We rolling?
Yes, we're live now. So why don't you tell me about it?
Well, I guess I just have to face it.
Sorry, my bad.
Face it. I'm really an addict. My name is Brandon, and I am addicted to Asterisk.
How did it start for you?
Well, I downloaded Asterisk Now, and once I got it installed, I thought it was pretty cool. No big deal.
What happened then?
I started messing around with the dial plan, adding contexts, playing with funny sounds. It was all so cool.
And how do you think you got hooked?
Well, once I saw how easy it was to make the PBX do what I wanted it to do, I read some more and then branched out some.
Branched out? What do you mean by that?
Well, I added trunks to the system. SIP trunks, Dottie trunks. Yeah, I guess that was when I started getting hooked.
How did it progress from there?
Well, I started out with the Asterisk Now CD and an analog card. You know, only 4 channels. But before I knew it, I was building Asterisk from source and mainlining with quad-span PRI interfaces and sending calls to the backbone on high-capacity SIP trunks, too.
So I'm really curious, did this affect your life outside of work?
Well, yeah, a lot. I mean, like, my wife she doesn't understand. She kicked me out of the house. So, yeah, I guess you could say it has definitely affected my life.
What triggered her to kick you out?
Well, I think she sort of had some suspicions. At first, it wasn't bad. I just stayed at work a little later, that kind of thing. I missed dinner one night, and when she asked me about it, I was I kind of stammered. I think she knew there was a problem right then. Well, after a few weeks, it got even worse. I was getting home really late, and then one night she caught me under the covers with my laptop, tweaking with the auto attendant.
Oh, that's bad.
Well, it's not all bad. I mean, now I sleep in my cube at work. It's not as bad as it sounds. All I need to do every morning is just climb out from under my desk, sit down, and my terminal connection to the Asterisk box is waiting for me.
How are things going at work now?
Oh, it's great. I have like 7 VMs running different Asterisk versions. I can send calls all over the place. The calls go through so fast, and even now I'm messing with different codecs, even G729. My boss let me buy 20 licenses to play with, and he sort of understands. He used to be sort of a weasel, but now I think he's okay.
Well, thanks a lot for talking with us.
Sure. Can I get back to my dial plan now?
Thank you. I had fun putting that together. So this morning I'm going to be telling you about a little bit about what makes me tick. I'm going to be talking about TWR a little bit and the success story that we've had with Asterisk. And then I'm going to get into the meat of my talk. So first, a little background about me. When I was 17 years old, I bought a brand new motorcycle, this motorcycle. And I was a very avid rider. I worked in a motorcycle shop, and I was just fascinated with machines and things that went fast. So I was really curious how the transmission in this thing worked. So one night I took the engine out and I took the whole thing apart. I had it all torn down, all the way down to the cases, and I was looking at the shift mechanism. And then my dad came out into the garage, and this is what he saw. So he sees my brand new motorcycle in pieces all over the floor, and he was furious. He said he doubted I could ever get it back together again. Well, the next day, I was riding it back to my classes. And I tell you all this just to let you know that I've always been somebody that likes to tinker with things. I like to play with things. And that's why I like Asterisk so much. Because Asterisk is a communications toolkit. And it reminds me a lot of a box of Lego bricks. You can make a PBX out of it. You can make a gateway out of it. You can make it part of your telephone company. So tinkering with Asterisk is something that I'm just wired for. Now let me tell you a little bit about TWR. TWR is the farthest reaching Christian media ministry in the world. We produce content and broadcast it around the globe in 230 languages and dialects. And we have partners in 160 countries. So our migration to Asterisk has been a huge success story. We have 4 regional offices. My map isn't showing up very well there. That's supposed to be a world map behind there. I guess it's a little bit too subtle. Our regional offices are in the United States, in North Carolina, in Austria, Vienna, in Johannesburg, South Africa, and in Singapore is our Asia office. We also have transmitting sites on the island of Bonaire in the Netherlands Antilles, in Swaziland, and on Guam. And we have another couple of offices that we've tied in Canada, London, Ontario, in the Netherlands, northern part of the Netherlands, and in Bratislava. So here's how we deployed Asterisk at TWR, and it was a stepwise rollout, as you can see from the schedule there, and each one was a series of mini projects, or each was a mini project. And now all of these offices are tied together with EECS and SIP trunks. And we have just over 400 endpoints on the network. So it's not huge in the enterprise sense of the word, but it's very, very distributed, as you can tell. So like any nonprofit, we watch our expenses very carefully. And our Asterisk network has helped us a great deal in this area. At our headquarters, we replaced a $150,000 Cisco phone system with an Asterisk system for $9,000. And we're now routing all of our international calls over our own IPsec tunnels, and we use least cost routing. And we use about 3,000 minutes per month on those trunks. So we figure we're saving between $3,000 and $6,000 every month using Asterisk. But once the systems were rolled out, maintaining them has been a challenge for maintenance. And so I want to help you avoid maintenance headaches with your Asterisk rollout. And I'm going to give you some recommendations for planning out your deployment to make this job easier. Again, the world map is not working here. Because we have offices that span 16 to 17 hours of time zone differences, it's hard to get time off. When one office turns off the light, the next office is just halfway through their day. And so it goes week after week, day after day, week after week. And it's just the fact of the distribution of our offices. But besides the time zone problem, I've had other challenges. The Linux command line is a challenge for our junior Windows-savvy IT staff. In the regions, we have limited staffing, and some of those IT guys wear multiple hats, so they're doing radio production as well as IT support. And some of our offices have a lot of turnover, so that means more phone system changes as well as sometimes having to retrain IT staff. So we live in a world of easy computer access. Mice, graphical user interfaces, tablet computing, touch screens, gestures. Everybody uses them, and most everybody really likes these easy and intuitive interfaces. But Asterisk, especially when you build it from source, doesn't look like this. And for many of the IT guys in my organization, seeing something like this on a screen just gives them the heebie-jeebies. It's terrifying to them. And even this, which is dial plan code from my Vienna office, some of the guys on my staff were born way after the GUI computer revolution. And while they might be comfortable with some kind of limited scripting, nearly all of them much prefer a GUI interface. So now you know what my challenges are in maintaining these systems. And in the last few years, I've learned a lot and made plenty of mistakes along the way. So I'm going to share with you my recommendations for building out an Asterisk system or network that is easy to maintain. The most important part of your Asterisk installation is planning. Dwight Eisenhower said before D-Day that plans are nothing. Planning is everything. So carefully planning your installation will help you a lot in the long run. And it means you're going to need to make some decisions. There are a lot of decisions to make. The biggest maintenance decision, in my opinion, is whether or not you're going to use a GUI or you're going to use pure Asterisk install. Given the expertise level in my organization, this is the only way I can surmount my time zone challenge. I have to use a GUI interface for those remote offices where they're upside down on my time zone. And where I have software developers maintaining the system, it's a very different story. So GUI versus pure Asterisk. And if you're going to use pure Asterisk, are you going to build it from source, or are you going to install from packages? And that has maintenance ramifications as well. If you're going to use a PSTN interface, how are you going to interface to it? Are you going to use SIP trunks, or are you going to use T1, E1 analog lines? And are you going to use a card embedded in your system, or are you going to use a gateway? If you're going to use VoIP, you really need to look at quality of service and traffic shaping on your network. You need to decide about brands and models of endpoints, features to be included, the requirements of your PBX, and then training your users as well. Now, FreePBX is a PBX ecosystem that offers Asterisk functionality under the covers, but it offers a lot more. And I'm using FreePBX in our newer installations. If I had one thing to do over again, I would have started with FreePBX in our smaller offices so that I could offload that maintenance right up front. It lets you use a GUI for almost all of your maintenance functions. And it includes intrusion detection, a user portal where they can access voicemail, do their own recordings and greetings, and much, much more. So if you're considering Asterisk, give FreePBX a good hard look. Yes. Using a SIP gateway will give you some flexibility with your Asterisk installs too. Now, you have a big choice whether or not you're going to use, if you're going to use a standard telephone company interface, you need to decide if you're going to put that card in your server or you're going to put it in a gateway. So at the top left here is an OpenVox GSM gateway. That sells for less than $500. And the two Digium boxes are a single span and a quad span T1 interface gateway. And Asterisk talks to these boxes using SIP. So you've abstracted your hardware interface off to the gateway, and it just makes your Asterisk installation a little more pure. And if you don't want to deal with that kind of interface, you can use SIP trunks, and that gives you a lot of flexibility also. So there's a lot of SIP trunk vendors, and they're here at the show, that give very aggressive pricing on measured service. You save money on hardware. You don't have to buy hardware cards. You don't have to buy the gateway. And there are a lot of vendors available. However, if you're going to be installing in a country or an area where there's poor internet access, don't do this. Training your maintainers sounds really obvious, but if you build a system that your maintainers can't handle, it can be really problematic. So in addition to making those decisions up front for planning the type of deployment that you're going to use, think about the people that are going to be maintaining the system. So FreePBX has got a great method of letting you incrementally add responsibility to a particular maintainer because of its design. So simple moves, adds, and changes can be delegated very, very easily. And if you have a distributed network, make sure you can delegate those tasks to the people that are in those time zones so that the users can get decent response times. And if you share maintenance responsibilities, use a trouble ticketing system or keep detailed logs. Make sure that you're not walking on each other's toes when you maintain the system. Don't ask me how I know this. One great thing about Asterisk is that it's completely open. But because of this, it's a huge temptation, especially to me, to experiment with different phone brands, even after you've gone operational. But if you have to provision all those multiple brands, it just makes it more and more complex. So I recommend that you minimize the number of brands that you have to provision and take care of. These are TWR standard phones. One thing that's nice about this is that workers from any office can go to another office and they know how to use the handsets. It's just has eased my training burden. And I'm not telling you that you have to use these phones. Just minimize the number of brands that you need to deal with. And another good choice are the Digium phones with the DPMA or with the SchmoozCom endpoint manager. These phones have fantastic features. They're really nice. If you have more than about a dozen phones, a provisioning server is a must for your installation. And if you don't know what provisioning is, I'll tell you. Provisioning is a way to configure your phone endpoints without touching the phone or without accessing the internal web server. It saves a huge amount of time, especially if something changes on the network that affects every endpoint. And you can set up provisioning, roll your own with FTP or TFTP services right on your Asterisk server. If you do it this way, you have to understand how those phones' XML format is and how they provision. Another option for FreePBX users is to buy their endpoint manager module. And this lets the administrator manage all of the endpoints using the FreePBX GUI. And this solution keeps you out of the drudgery of the different XML formats for each vendor. So to summarize your provisioning options, you've got GUI tools such as the SchmoozCom endpoint manager, or you might use the provisioning tools from the vendor. The endpoint manager from Schmooz supports over 200 phones. You can roll your own TFTP or FTP server, but you need to brush up on your XML if you're going to do that. And then the DPMA is a way to provision, but that only works for Digium phones. I would warn you to avoid the one-off configuration. This is the user that asks for just on my phone, nobody else's, I just need this extra phone line or line presence or a speed dial. Instead of getting into the web page for his phone and just adding that feature, I recommend that you build a new template and provision it from the provisioning server. And that way, if you have to do a phone reset, you don't have to go around chasing all the special cases for the people that you've made this one exception for. A standby server is a great insurance policy if you have unforeseen problems with your system. And it's a fallback strategy for you in case you need it. And you can get a low-cost server, load up Asterisk on it. You can use standard Linux tools to synchronize your configuration files between them, and then have it ready as a warm standby. This particular box on the screen cost us $80, plus the price of a new hard drive. And it's been running on Guam now for 4 years. So your standby server needs to be ready to switch over IPs and take over your PBX responsibilities. You do need to create or purchase unique licenses for that box because of the tie-in to the NIC card MAC address that most of those licenses are based on. So if you have DPMA license or G729 or fax for Asterisk or something like that, make sure you get licenses for your other server. And then using gateways makes this easier too, because then you don't have to deal with the extra cards in the standby server. Even after training all of my users, they come and ask me questions all the time. So I keep a wiki, or they call it a FAQ, but it's a SharePoint wiki on our corporate website. And I refer the users to this all the time. It's also very easy to print out for new employees. So somebody brand new doesn't know how to use the phone system, doesn't know what prefix to dial, it's all right there. Now I want to ask you all, have you ever had a day like this? I did recently. A production server of mine went down, and it was going down pretty fast. It was a really bad feeling. It made me realize how glad I was doing one main thing. I was backing up my configuration files. And it seems very trivial, but it's very important to do. And some people don't know where to start with backing up their config files. If you look in etc asterisk asterisk.conf, that's where Asterisk actually looks to find all the directories to where to find its configs or its files to access. And I want to just walk through what I back up on my system. etc asterisk and etc dotty are where my config files all live. Home polycom and tftp boot are where my provisioning files live. So I don't want to lose those. I've got a bunch of custom IVR prompts that Allison Smith has recorded for me, and I don't want to lose those either. So I back those up. My users keep voicemail greetings and temporary greetings, and they keep their voicemail files for, I don't know why they keep them so long, but they do. And so I back up the voicemail. I use the Asterisk database a lot in my dial plan, and so I back up the Asterisk database. And I have some custom web functions that are stored under var www. I back up my licenses, so if I can restore right back onto that server, they're ready to go. And then /root is where all my scripts and cron tabs live. So that's what I back up. So we're ready to sum up. I'm sorry? Certainly. I have a shell script that copies all of these over to a USB drive. I also back up to a Samba server, and I email my extensions.conf file to myself every Friday night. Okay, so plan your installation carefully. Make those decisions up front to make sure that you're building something that is maintainable. Train the people that are going to be maintaining your system. Standardize your phones or minimize the number of phone types that you have to provision. And invest in a provisioning server no matter what, if you have more than about a dozen phones. Build up a standby server, you won't be sorry. Set up a wiki or a frequently asked questions website. And last but not least, back up those configuration files. So if you can do some or most of these things, hopefully you can avoid days like this and enjoy days like this. Thanks a lot for coming.
All right. So if anybody has questions, I'm coming around with the microphone, so please wait till I give you the mic to ask your question.
Yeah, thanks for the presentation. My question is on the GSM gateway.
Yes.
Are you using it?
No, I don't use that gateway. That's not. I just put it up there as an example.
Okay. Do you know if someone wants to use it, you can use a regular SIM card, or you have to make an arrangement with?
It depends on the country you're in and the vendor that you're dealing with. You're in the U.S. You would just get a SIM card and a service contract from a carrier. Mm-hmm.
How many total users do you have on your system?
Total users or endpoints?
How about both?
I have probably 300 users, 300 people, and 400 endpoints.
Thank you.
Did you use another GUI-based Asterisk before FreePBX?
No, I did not. I started looking at Elastix, and I was kind of coming to a decision point last year. I attended some of the Elastix sessions here at AstriCon and some of the FreePBX sessions, and decided that FreePBX was probably closer to what I wanted, so that's what I went with.
Well, what was your deciding factor between FreePBX and Elastix?
Between FreePBX and Elastix,
Yes.
it was the amount of support and basically the footprint of the product. I wanted something that was still was very vibrant and live, and it seems like there's just more critical mass in the FreePBX community than there is in the Elastix community.
Thank you.
I have nothing against Elastix. I think it's a great product.
Did you consider using any kind of deployment strategy for your config files? For example, using like a Git repository to where you could just deploy your config files out to the Asterisk servers when needed?
I've got yeah, there's a software guy in Vienna that's helping me do that now. We're going to start using Puppet for that.
Yes.
That works well, especially if all of your deployments are very, very similar. The other thing I forgot to mention is that FreePBX has got a tremendous backup and restore capability. And I had the smoke come out of a server in Bratislava about 2 months ago. And after the new hardware came in, I was back up in an hour from bare silicon to a running server, just exactly how it was before. So just a little shout out for FreePBX.
Do you
backups.
Push your backups and recordings externally off-site from wherever they're generated at?
Yes, the script that runs my Samba backup goes to a corporate server, and then that gets rolled off-site.
Coming up behind you.
Sorry, trying to remember the question. Do you virtualize any of your servers?
I have not yet. I'm running physical machines. Part of the reason is that I just started getting gateways, so I've been dependent on the I/O cards.
Have you ever used a failover system from Digium?
I have one of those boxes. Yes, I do have that in place.
Okay, and that's worked for you?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
thank you.
It's an R850. I say it works. My T1's never gone down. So.
Before you went to the FreePBX, what were you doing? I mean, originally were you just doing like straight from source? Or
straight from source. Every server up there was built straight from source, with the exception of Bratislava. And so now I'm migrating the smaller offices over to FreePBX.
There comes my question: is how are you handling that migration? Or because one of the things we ran into, because we're straight from source with 200 or 300 servers, out there, is how to keep all those up to date and all the source and the OS and all that.
Well, what's happening now is, because it's 3 years later, it's time for a server refresh anyway. So I build a shadow server. The challenge for me is getting all the custom functionality that's so easy to do with Asterisk from source, and figuring out how to do that in FreePBX.
So you're just like physically replacing the box then? I mean,
yes.
you're staging one and just shipping a replacement?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, no, I physically replace the box.
Yeah.
And then what I'm going to do is make that old box my backup server. Yeah, I didn't have the budget in every case to put a backup server at every location, but where I did, I'm glad I did.
Yeah, I was just trying to figure out how you were maintaining the OS and that.
Right.
You're automating that somehow?
I wish. Yeah.
Do you use anything larger than FreePBX in order to manage call dependency? In other words, say someone in the US wants to call somewhere in Canada or somewhere in Europe, instead of doing that through the PSTN locally through one of your gateway machines, you ship the call over to a server?
I do.
In Europe?
If somebody picks up the phone and dials Austria country code in my office with an international prefix, it routes it through the Austria office, and I do that for Guam, Austria, Netherlands, Canada, and so on.
Are you doing that through just dial plan entries on the individual servers? Or do you have
Yeah,
something
I do
larger
that
like
as dial plan entries. Yeah. Yeah, it's not hard to do. It's not hard to do with FreePBX either, with outbound routes. Just defining the outbound route for that particular country code, send it to a particular trunk. I use both. It depends. You got to remember, I started in 2010, and EEX has gone through some hiccups, and it was hard to get it to work sometimes. So where I had version mismatches and things like that, that gave me some problems. So pretty much now I'm always using SIP, but I do have some EEX trunks. Guam, Singapore, and Vienna tie into the main system with EEX. I'm sorry, I couldn't quite hear your whole question.
What kind of bandwidth do you have in these sites to be able to ensure you're getting good QoS when you ship a call to or whatever?
Well, we both have pretty big pipes, and we've got a good core router in Cary, and that's where everything goes through. So the QoS is handled by my network guy as much as anything else, and I tell him when there's problems, and he'll go in and tweak the traffic shaper.
But you don't have like MPLS between all of
No, sir, we don't. We run it just on the internet, and because most of the reason for that is because of our management model for the ministry is distributed. So TWR Europe in Vienna and Bratislava and Netherlands have their own negotiated ISP, and we don't direct that from the US. Okay.
How often do you change out the servers at the locations? What's your timing or the queue to do it?
Again, that kind of depends. Ideally, what I'd like to do is every 3 years or 3 to 4 years. In reality, it's whenever the region has the budget to do it and thinks of it in time, and it doesn't get cut for some other reason.
So we're about out of time here. If anyone has questions for Cassius, he will be around, probably out in the hall out here. So feel free to ask him your questions. Also, don't forget, please grab one of the evaluation forms and fill it out and place it in the box up front. Thank you very much.
Thank you.